Did JK Rowling steal Harry Potter?
The entire legendarium of the wizarding world of Harry Potter is closer to a Fat Boy Slim song than it is to an original piece of fiction. Stories of magic schools have been around since real-life schools first shut their gates to the lower classes. Stories of orphans destined for greatness have been around for even longer than that. Although this is very much just British boarding school that seems unique to people who haven't seen these in real life. Basically, maybe she's not creative.
As a young adult, not a child, you're a child, but you're in that transformative period between adulthood and childhood where all the young adult literature taps into that age bracket because something magical does occur, which echoes to the idea in Harry Potter. Like these spells, you just need to say the correct words. The magic is already within you. You need a conduit, the wand, or your pen and paper, but with the right words, the ability to speak the right words unlocks the magic that is already within. And that is a powerful idea. Okay, here we go. The worst witch.
The protagonist is surprised to get to attend a magic school and so is an outcast among the other students, just like Harry Potter. In Harry Potter, the kindly head teacher takes a special interest in Mildred and is especially fond of her, just like with Harry and fake gay Gandalf.
It's so much more effective for the protagonist if there's that outsider element because we can relate to that no matter who you are.
The story of the orphaned boy who is destined for greatness, taken under the wing of a wise old teacher with a big white beard, is so cliched that not only is it the plot of the Disney film The Sword in the Stone, which is probably also based on something, it's also fucking Star Wars.
You're absolutely right that there are patterns that we recognize subconsciously. There are worlds, there are things in the world that children, young adults, and adults wish could occur. We long for escape. We long for the feeling that there is a way to tap into that magic which lives within us. We used to feel it. When you're a child, you feel like everything is possible. A story comes along and shows us those dreams that we've forgotten. And you can say, well, that's not an original idea because that's shared by so many. That's a common occurrence. That's just a reality of growing up.
JK Rowling is a wedding DJ for fantasy fiction, playing all the hits, and there's nothing worse than a DJ. But none of them were really born from her, from the place inside us where art is conceived. And what's worse is that she doesn't seem to be too big a fan of the hits she's playing. Her disregard for accuracy in terms of Irish, Norse, and Greek mythology aside, JK Rowling doesn't even seem to understand how themes work in general.
So now it's not accurate enough. Before it was too unoriginal, and it was reusing too often myths and stories that have already occurred. Now you're saying it's not accurate enough to those previous myths. You can't have it both ways, buddy.
But did she come up with Dumbledore? No, he's just a queer-baiting Merlin. They tell us familiar stories without asking any challenging questions, and the magic world reminds us of our own without the mental workout of shining a satirical light on real injustice.
So there has to be a satirical light shown on injustice. I would argue that that's what she was doing with the house elves. That's what the Death Eaters were there to symbolize, but then you go in the same video, you make an argument that the existence of the Death Eaters as a device in the story is flawed within itself. So I'm not sure how you can have it both ways.
It took until 2004 and a visit to the Holocaust Museum for Joanne to see that the genocidal wizards she spent more than a decade writing were, in fact, genocidal. Writing on her website in July of that year, Jo said that she was chilled to see that the Nazis used precisely the same warped logic as the Death Eaters. I don't know how she could not have known this, how she could not know, and then think the best thing to do is tell us that she did not know, and then use it as an opportunity to tell us about the dangers of fascist logic, while denying the very same atrocities she claims she finally bothered to learn about.
You're claiming that she didn't know what the motivations of the Nazis were prior to 2004.
The Harry Potter series is definitely and definitively books. They also seem to be pretty clearly derivative and unoriginal books and films. And that's probably a large part of what makes them so successful. They scratch a cultural itch without exposing any of the weirdness of myth. Answer the question. What makes you so special, Joanne?
I think she was writing for herself because when she wrote that first book, she didn't have an agent. She didn't have an audience. There was no book. That's when this world was created. The rest, she decided what to do with the world, but that's when the world was born. And she was creating that for herself. So she was just writing what she would want to read. It hit her on that train. And the reason she knew, when she describes it hitting, that's, boom, the idea, oh, I like that. Why do you like it? Because that interests me. That's a journey I want to go on. That's where good writing comes from. What's the opposite? Where we're not writing for ourselves, we're writing for what we think the audience wants to see. That results in things like Star Wars, recent iterations. And we see this time and time again now, where we have so many studio executives and so many people working at the business level who are trying to craft something that they believe will appeal to a larger audience. Her goal was just to see the book on a bookshelf. That would have been success. She never dreamed a large audience would actually read it. She was not writing it for the world. She was writing it for herself. That makes all the difference.
On her blog in 2019, JK Rowling said,
"Having your work scrutinized is an inevitable concomitant of being a professional writer. I never dreamed there would be a fandom the size of Harry Potter's picking over the books. It's staggering and wonderful. Given that I'm fairly obsessive myself, these are kindred spirits."
Notice the voice that they're using here. Just to be clear for the audience, that is not JK Rowling's voice. And they're making it as annoying as possible.
Some witches don't come from magical backgrounds, just like Harry Potter. There's a mean teacher who is basically Snape, Miss Hardbroom. She's tall with dark hair, dark eyes, dresses in all black, hates Mildred, and favors the blonde bully. She's the potions teacher. She seems like a bad guy, she's strict and unemotional, and everyone is afraid of her because she appears out of nowhere, but is really a good guy. Like Snape in Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's a fundamental archetype of the teacher as well. Another teacher. You're going to have the Dumbledore, the Gandalf archetype, the Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then you're going to have the other teachers that you've had in your own life who are very serious and dry, but they might have a good side to them. There are reasons, because why did they become a teacher to begin with?
The school is also in danger from a coven of bad witches, and it's up to Mildred to save it, like the Death Eaters. In Harry Potter, the rival student is an upper-class girl with bright blonde hair who is favored by Snape. Ms. Hardbroom. Her family are famous and respected witches who attended the school for generations. She always tries to get Mildred in trouble, even if it means risking the school. Like in Harry Potter. Just like Harry Potter.
Well, what poses you an actual threat? Not just what you fear, but those who have the money to drag you through litigation, political connections, their parents' resources. So, and what makes they are the most formidable bullies. So if you're going to write a character as a bully, giving them those traits make them the most effective form of that character. That's just logic.
Jill Murphy is chill, and Mildred Hubble is chill too. And she kind of just goes through her education without there needing to be a fascist uprising or every other character getting Avada Kedavra off screen. They're nice books.
Without there needing to be a fascist uprising. What would the fascist uprising be referring to? The Death Eaters? Look, we need conflict drive story. We need the orcs in Lord of the Rings. We need the forces of evil. You have to have the villain. That's not an argument.
The Discworld novels by Terry Pratchett feature Unseen University, a school for wizards in Ankh-Morpork. And on the staff, there's series regular Ponder Stibbons, who really, really looks like Harry Potter, but again, has actual personality.
I want to address this argument that Harry Potter does not have a personality. He has his fears. He's hurting at the beginning before he understands that the world exists. He enters that world. He has transformation. He experiences friendship, love, loss. And most importantly, perhaps, he struggles with his own capacity for the darkness, where there are times where he wants to kill and he stops himself. He wanted to kill Sirius Black. He is an actually He is a rounded character, I would argue. His fears. We as the readers, we can feel that fear, and we see him battle to overcome it. We understand what he's feeling when he walks into the Forbidden Forest that final time to face his own death with Voldemort. So I don't buy.
When Neil Gaiman answered the question of whether or not JK Rowling stole his ideas, he said that he didn't think she had read the books of magic, and that it wouldn't matter if she had. Again, he said, "I wasn't the first writer to create a young magician with potential, nor was Rowling the first to send one to school." Gaiman concluded by saying, "It's not the ideas, it's what you do with them that matters." And I think this is exactly my biggest criticism of Rowling as a writer. What she does with these well-worn tropes and cliches is not much.
And this goes back to the idea that the audience does not lie. He's the most successful storyteller I've ever seen. If you're going off of results.
Legitimately pretend journalist Megan Phelps of the Westboro Baptist Church as arguably the most successful author in the history of publishing, with a possible exception of God. That doesn't mean she has to make her art with character and motivation and consequence and other boring things in mind. She's a fun author, not like a good author.
Well, she was able to do that extremely effectively. And I would argue she stayed true to that. Imagine the pressure that would come from once you do hit the successful stride, and then the audience is analyzing, and you haven't even written the full book yet, the final book, and the world is watching, and she goes in and gets a hotel just to lock the world away and just to finish this thing, knowing that they're waiting outside to watch, to read, and to be able to make it through that journey. Well, it speaks for itself. Actions speak louder than words. So I hope you enjoy this. And we are about to, if we can keep going, we'll cross 100,000 subscribers. If we're averaging around 100 subscribers a day, and then except when a new video is published, then it's at -2 for just that 24-hour period. Every time a video comes out. If you have experience with this kind of stuff and you can see a logical explanation that I'm not seeing, I would love. The only way forward is just to power through it. Keep going. There's nothing I can really do about it, but if I'm missing something, please let me know. Yeah, more to come. Thank you all so much.